Okay, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to SFM, aka Stupid FM. We have sitting with us today, Living with Charles, aka Charlie. Next to her, we have the ruler of the universe, aka Ani, and Jack.
What's up, guys?
If you missed last week's episode, we analyzed the Drake v. Kendrick beef. That is now more shit on pod on top of it. We're not getting into that. We are. We'll mention that later in the episode. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And we also talked about the new Blade drop.
Things got pretty serious.
Two of the hosts.
Two of them.
You don't want to miss that. So that's last week's episode.
Last week.
Today, though, let's switch it up a bit. We're gonna get more serious. This was requested by a viewer that goes by Dr. Hussein.
Shout out
her. And we're gonna be covering racism and things of that nature. These are gonna be, again, heavier topics. So I suggest you should stick around and learn something, maybe relate to some things a degree.
Yeah, like, have you ever loved one ever been told to go back to country? Or maybe you've been ashamed of the race you were born as.
Have you or a loved one ever been told to go back to your country, Charlie? Or Jack?
No.
Or even been ashamed to be the race as you're born as?
Alright. Diving into that. Our first topic today is going to be the types of racism.
Rest in peace, Pop Smoke.
Rest in peace, Pop Smoke.
Alright. So, racism types. Starting off, we got interpersonal racism, right? Racism between individuals. And we even have a personal example today. So, take it away, ruler of the universe. What would you like to say?
Okay, so this was around the same time last year today. I was in a quarrel with one of my coworkers. So this guy, he was a shift leader, and so was I at the time. And Jack and I, one of our co-hosts here, we were off the shift. Off the clock. We went into the Rubio's, again, a Mexican restaurant surrounded by other ethnic restaurants. This is a key detail. We walked into the Rubio's, and I was asking Ethan if we could switch our shifts. Normal ass question, and I was being respectful as hell. Again, we had past quarrels, but I just wanted to put that aside. Just asked to switch shifts, and he was okay with it. But then he said, "Oh wait, I have to switch. I can't because my girlfriend's over." And I jokingly was like, "Aw, damn it." And he's like, "Oh, God forbid Ani doesn't get what she wants." Acting like a child. Again, I just turned 18 at the time, and he was 23. So, like, this guy's old. Unk, if you will.
Alright.
Anyways, so Jack had a funny idea. I asked Charlie, she was working at register, if she could give me a piece of paper. Jack told me, no way, I put "fuck you" on it, like all caps, underlined and everything.
Exclamation.
And I was like jokingly pointing it at him, but making sure he did see the paper. And then Jack and I left, and Jack was like, "Oh, just open the bag and throw that piece of paper back there." I'm like, that's a really funny idea. So I crumbled it up, opened the bag because I have the keys to the place, threw it back there, and we went to his car. And then Ethan came out, stuck the middle finger at me, and then apparently told me to go back to my country. I said apparently because I didn't hear this because I was pretty far. But he screamed this, apparently, in the parking lot of, again, an ethnic area. Like, there was restaurants of, like, different ethnicities. Like, there was, like, a Vietnamese place, Japanese place, Indian place, Mexican place, And Charlie heard him scream, "Go back to your country." One of my friends at the time, Michael, who was also working there, he heard that. And so Ethan reported the "fuck you" note because it was a physical evidence, and he reported it to that manager, and the manager got me fired, saying I violated a code of whatever conduct, I don't know, and they fired me. But they also knew that Ethan told me to go back to my country, but they did not fire him. He left on his own account. And they were aware that he admitted that he told me to go back to my country, and this isn't the first time he's done this.
Yeah, there's been many other times where Ethan is it's been known they don't like each other, Ethan and Ani. They had beef before, but it was never really addressed or taken care of. But Ethan is a hateful person. And put it in a nice light, guys. It's pretty hateful. And after shouting across the parking lot to go back to your country, he came back into the store, mumbling to himself, oh, "The fucking bitch, she should just go back to her country. I mean, what's she even doing here? Annie, what even is that?" Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
He does this thing where he doesn't know how to say my name on purpose. My name is Ani. It's like written ANI, right? And I've told him many times, and he still manages to not get it correctly. He calls me Annie. I don't know. It's just stupidity at that point.
Yes, it's just personal at that point. He's doing it on purpose to be
and he knows
to you.
I am Armenian. He knows that I'm an immigrant and I'm not from this country.
Yes. Hence, go back to your country.
Yep. And that was a personal
personal example of intrapersonal
racism.
Now, on to a different topic. Institutionalized racism, right? We got Jack's opinion on that. Take it away.
Institutionalized racism is okay. When you first think of racism, you probably more than likely just think of intrapersonal racism. One person being discriminatory, being hateful towards another because of where they're from, what they look like, whatever. Institutionalized racism, however, I would argue, has a much wider reaching impact than interpersonal racism. And that is because it is the discrimination of a system, a government, an agency against peoples in general. Some super overt, I suppose, examples of this would be apartheid South Africa, where people were divided based on their class, based on the color of their skin, and were given literal different rights based on what they looked like, what they appeared like, their backgrounds. All of this. And this has been a problem in America for a very long time. Obviously, we had slavery. Obviously, even now, our cities are still very, very divided into districts, based often on race. But the past 20 years or so, institutionalized racism against those of Middle Eastern descent has been growing quite rapidly since 9/11. This can be seen in even the existence of the TSA, the existence of airport security as we know it, did not exist before those events. They were created specifically to try and counter another attack, but you can see that these countermeasures that they claim are random, that they claim are to protect the safety of everyone on board a flight, are more often than not targeted specifically towards people who appear to be of Middle Eastern descent.
Yeah, like my father. I don't travel with him much, but he does tell me that he does get consistently stopped in the airports. He is very Middle Eastern looking. He has a dark complexion and everything, right? And when let's say my sister and I travel, when we come back from Armenia, right? We bring back stuff like food and cigarettes back from Armenia to America, and so does my dad, but he gets stopped and his stuff gets looked through. And then I think they confiscated his stuff before, but that has never happened to my sister and I, and we have we're white passing, if you will.
A more, I suppose, even less overt example of institutionalized racism would tie into the current protests on college campuses around the US, which many people are drawing comparison between these protests to protests on campuses during the Vietnam War, calling for anti-war. These protests are essentially the same, except this time America is not directly involved in the war. It's mainly students protesting in support of the Palestinian people, calling into question the legitimacy of the Israeli state. And I would consider this to be an example of institutionalized racism because of the police response, the National Guard response to these protests. While at first glance it may simply seem that the police are cracking down on violence, cracking down on people expressing themselves in ways that may not necessarily be legal, or may be legal, just may be disruptive on these campuses. The reason why they're being deployed in such numbers and in such force is because Israel protects many American resources, many American assets in the Middle East. They essentially keep the Middle East how America wants it, and in exchange, we give them funding, we give them money, we keep them wealthy. So when people are calling into question the legitimacy of the Israeli state, as many of those involved in the protests are. It is in the interest of the United States government to crack down on these people. Despite this very, very real reason to protest, the literal genocide of people in Palestine, many wealthy Americans are simply looking at these protests as college students acting up, as them caring about things that aren't really happening, as saying that they should simply go to class, that they should stop caring, that they should stop being disruptive. Again, tying back to protests during the Vietnam War era. Sorry.
Right, and this current situation can directly tie into colorblind racism as presented by Bonilla Silva. Whereas many of the wealthy people in our country of the higher class are choosing to turn a blind eye to the problems at hand, saying that it's just kids acting up for no reason, they're being disruptive, when there's like a legitimate reason for all of these people to be protesting. But many of the people in America are also choosing to turn a blind eye to that as well, to all the people like across the countries that are being like shot and killed and persecuted innocently for no reason. And it gives this idea of colorblind racism where many people choose to ignore a problem if they're not directly affected by it, or they have this idea that, oh, if a certain race or something doesn't like all of this happening, they can speak up for themselves, they can make it stop. But that's not happening, so other people are speaking up about it. And many protests and boycotts have been going around in America, such as Starbucks, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, and such. And a lot of people, wealthy class, like white Americans, are choosing to still partake in buying from these companies because they have this idea that one coffee is not going to hurt everyone or hurt anyone. But then that one coffee turns into two, turns into like 10, 20 a week. And then all of a sudden that's a bunch more money into the funding of all these people dying. Yeah. So yeah, don't do that, guys.
And then we have a special guest.
Oh, we do have a special guest on the line.
SFM?
SFM, our special guest.
You'll hear her later on.
You will hear her later.
You'll hear her approaching later on. Okay, so the next topic is settler colonialism. In our reading, we talked about Nakano Glen, right? This is when people from one place move to another land, stay there, and take control, often pushing out, and mistreating the original inhabitants. Take Turkey and the war between Turkey and Armenia, for example. This was April 24th, 1915, when Turkey essentially took over most of the land of Armenia. And in like recent light, this was like 109 years ago. But recently, Armenia has also felt like it was under attack by Azerbaijan this time. If you don't know, Armenia is in between these two lands, right? So they're always constant under threat by these two countries. But recently, like 2022, I think. No, 2023, Azerbaijan took Artsakh, which was a small piece of land that was owned by Armenia in Azerbaijan. And they're like, no, we want this land. It's in our land. So they attacked Armenia a couple times. Well, Armenia attacked first because they wanted that to be their land. But Azerbaijan was like, no, fuck you. And then like started shooting, like fighting back to Armenia. And then Armenia surrendered Artsakh to Azerbaijan. And recently they I saw that they like leveled out a village that was once an Armenian village in Artsakh, and just because it was Armenian. Okay. Well, there's also a little story. Like 4 years ago, and I was in Armenia. We took a bus trip to go to Turkey, like the part of Turkey that Turkey took from Armenia. It has Mount Ararat, which is like one of the most like sacred thing that belonged to Armenia, and we were gonna go there to see like the other side, right? And we went there by bus, and we were driving an Armenian bus. It had an Armenian flag on it. When we were at the border of Turkey, they like wouldn't let us in unless we switched our buses because it had the Armenian flag on it. And when we did do that, when we were in Turkey, we couldn't speak Armenian because if we did, they would like easily spot us and like we could have been threatened by the people there. And another thing that's interesting when we were looking at villages in Turkey, that was again once Armenia, they had like old like this one house had like an old carving like an Armenian cross that they were using for like this house was using for like a stove kind of thing. Like they had the thing and they didn't destroy it because they thought the architecture was cool. Like it was the Armenian Khachkar. That's what it's called. And they didn't. It was like that's what Armenian like. That's they lived there once before, and they didn't destroy the artifact because they thought it was cool. Little tidbit.
Little factoid.
Little factoid. And another little thing to add on to this. This is not my personal story, but it's my sister's boyfriend and one of my managers at Red Robin. They're both Iranian. They don't know each other. Well, I don't think they do. There's no like personal ties, but they have like very similar stories, which is very interesting. So they both wanted to escape, like both their families escaped Iran and like the hardships that they faced there to Turkey, and they lived in Turkey for a couple of years and to come to America. I think I haven't asked my manager about this, but my sister's boyfriend Homan, he was part of this like little organization that helped Iranians leave or escape Iran to Turkey, and then and it's like they pick people to come to America and like help them. And they were telling Human's family that this was, I think, right before Trump passed that one law that was it like they couldn't like people from Iran or like the Middle East couldn't travel to America. Yeah, like right before that passed, Human's family, and I'm assuming Lily's too, came to America, and then after that they passed the law, which is like very lucky for them. But thank God, since they're here now.
Big ups, love Lily.
Just a little, yeah, I love her.
Love Lily, love Human. Talked to him twice. Pretty cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
I do gotta say.
Anyways, now personal connections to racism.
Woo!
Not really woo, because this is racism.
Yeah. Not fun.
Still, more stories.
More stories. Okay, so this is again another story from me.
From Ani.
Ani, ruler of the universe.
Woo.
So I had a friend. He what's funny, Jack?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. I had a friend. He went to Japan recently.
Gatabayo.
Yep. Arigato. And he came back with loads of gifts. And fun fact, I gave him $25 to bring me a gift bag from Japan, like a bunch of little gifts, and I was really excited for it. And he gave everyone like a bunch of gifts and only gave me one thing. It was like in a little box. And I was like, oh, this is cool. It could be like a cool like pin or whatever, or like an amulet. I open it. Any guesses to what it might be?
Maybe something to do with Armenia, because
Yeah, 'cause I'm
Armenian.
Armenian.
Yeah.
What about you, Jack? What do you think this?
What do you think it might be?
Maybe something to do with another country you like Djibouti.
Djibouti,
Yeah.
yeah, that has a cool flag, I've heard. Yeah.
It was a flag. You guys are
Oh,
correct.
maybe Russia. You're Russian?
Nope.
No.
Actually, it was the Azerbaijan flag,
Ooh.
and that's all he gave me. And I'm like, okay, haha, good joke. And we moved on, and he didn't mention it ever again. And I'm
Ever
like,
again.
I'm not friends with you anymore.
Not at all.
And yeah, we're not friends anymore. I do work with him, so it's kind of awkward. And I've a couple classes with him, so it's awkward in
Yeah.
that department.
I mean,
I don't care.
Yeah.
That's very like disrespectful in my
Yeah.
opinion.
you think because you work with him and you're going back to Armenia, do you think maybe something else might happen to mark the year date of last year?
Ooh,
Maybe.
aren't you going to Illinois too?
Oh yeah, we're
Wait,
both
that's
going out
perfect.
of. That's perfect for someone to say something. That'd be crazy if that happened though.
We're getting off track.
Okay,
now. Okay.
getting back to track.
back to
Some more personal connection.
this is sorry, let me grab my drink. This is more adding on to this is okay. This is this other story that we're gonna share.
Yes.
we could also tie this to intersectionality. So we had a friend
Had.
again last year, broke it off. It was crazy. Blood was everywhere.
Blood was drawn. We fought outside of McDonald's. That's why they had to tear it down.
Don't worry about
Shout
it.
it out.
Don't worry
No,
about
we
it,
didn't
guys.
do that.
Anyway, so this friend, she is a woman
A woman.
of color,
Color.
specifically Hispanic, Mexican
Hispanic.
woman. She is neurodivergent
Neurodivergent.
and a homosexual.
Queer.
Okay, I said that very.
It's okay.
She's queer.
She's queer.
She's gay, pansexual to be specific. But seems to hate women.
Women.
Seems to hate Utah gay people. She would
Only
not
Utah.
stop talking about how she hates Utah gay people.
I mean, I hate Utah as well, but
Gay people?
gay people?
Okay.
You're gay.
And she was a horrible racist towards Asian people
Yes.
and black men.
Only black men, not
She
black
had a
babies.
weird fascination of black babies, though, which also I think ties to some sort of racism. Like, you like them when they're babies, but hate them. Okay,
You're
to be
fetishizing black
specific,
babies.
we were watching a movie and a black person popped up. We were watching White Chicks, and who was the actor?
Was it Terry Crews?
Terry Crews? Yeah, she screamed
In horror.
horror, and she's like, "He looks like a rapist."
What do you mean by that?
And then you might be like, "Okay, maybe it was Terry Crews."
Yeah.
But no, there was another time where Jack, you want to say this one?
Yeah, this happened multiple times, just in advertisements, commercials, billboards, pretty much anywhere which she came into contact with the image of an African American male. She would describe him as looking like a rapist, just in general.
Yep.
Someone
no
walking
other
around, he
features.
looks like a rapist. Billboard, he looks like a rapist.
Why?
Bus stop sign, he looks like a rapist.
Seems like she fears black adults, specifically men.
Black men. Terrifying to her.
Another thing, Asian people. So
Hates them.
last year, Halloween time, about the same time we broke our friendship, she was like, "Yo, let's do a group activity for Halloween costumes." And we're like, "Yeah, that's fun because we're a group of friends."
Yeah.
She's like, "We should do The Simpsons." Oh wait, we're not Asian. Yeah. So I took like when she said that, I was like, "Oh, ha, ha, ha. Oh, no, no, no,
No.
If you don't get it, viewers out there,
You know.
there's a racist stereotype where Asian people are yellow, and guess what the color of the Simpsons are? Yellow. Very jaundice, And it doesn't stop there. It could have been a bad joke. No. Jack,
No,
what did she say about Foothill Ranch?
Foothill Ranch.
She was complaining about there being too many Asian people moving into the city in which she lived. Like, complaining, quite a bit, actually.
Multiple times, actually. And every time we're in Irvine, high Asian population, she hates Irvine. And you might be like, okay, a lot of people hate Irvine. So do I. But for other reasons.
Right.
She hates Irvine because of the high Asian population. Every time we're in Irvine, she complains about the driving because of the Asian drivers. And her ex was Asian.
Oh, this is a good one. Her ex was Asian,
And she's her ex was a woman and would
Yes.
not stop talking. Viewers' discretion.
viewer discretion advised.
Talking about her female parts smelled bad and how she had a bushy, and she told us this
I
at
didn't-
Denny's.
This was 12 hours before our breakup.
Yeah, she told us about her ex-girlfriend's bushy, smelly cooch.
Her words, not ours.
Yeah, I wouldn't describe a woman in that sense, even if it was my ex. That's a horrible way of putting down women. She also, I don't know, in a Denny's is crazy. Beyond me, actually.
And the Denny's at 1 p.m. is insane.
Before this, she complained
Oh.
multiple times and said that she would never date an Asian person again.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Or just in general, not necessarily again.
Just in general.
Okay, enough about this chick.
Enough about this bitch.
Oh.
Sorry, guys. Sorry to get controversial.
Remember in the beginning of the podcast we were talking about Drake and Kendrick Lamar? And that was we were talking about the beef specifically, but Kendrick Lamar brings an interesting topic.
Very.
Very interesting. Kendrick says this. This is in the song Euphoria by Kendrick Lamar.
Great song.
Kendrick
Amazing
let us
song.
use this song personally. I talked to him.
Yeah, Mr.
He's like,
Lamar.
He's like, oh, the ruler of the universe is calling me. I gotta pick up. And this is what he had to say.
I even hate when you say the word nigga,
Hold on.
but that's just me, I guess. I even hate when you say the word nigga, but that's just me, I guess. Some shit just cringeworthy. Ain't even gotta be deep, I guess.
Okay, and then he also says at the very end,
You don't wanna hear you say nigga no more.
which brings an interesting light because they're both black men, right?
Yes.
But Drake is a mixed black man. He is half white and half black. I don't know if it's perfect, if it's like half,
But mixed, yeah.
mixed. He's still black, and which is interesting. With those bars, he's basically insinuating that he doesn't see Drake as black enough to say the N-word. He also says in the what does he say?
In the previous line, he stated, "How many black features until you're black enough?" Saying once again, Drake is
Like, he's
not
spelling-
black enough.
He's like saying you're not black enough to say the N-word. You're putting
You're
up
not
front.
black. You're ruining for other black individuals. You're making us look bad.
And he's not specifically calling out mixed people, saying they're not black, because in another
Yes.
song called Meet the Grams, he's like talking to Adonis, Drake's son, who is also mixed. He has percentage-wise less black in him, quote unquote, but he refers to him as a black man. By the looks of Adonis, if you don't know, he has a very white complexion with yellow hair with blue eyes. You could tell he's a black kid, and which again brings an interesting point on like how people view race based on looks and like contextual. Because like Drake, he treats black women specifically bad. That's why Kendrick doesn't see him as a black man. He doesn't deserve the right to say the N-word because he doesn't treat his community good in that sense. Which brings us to our coworker, Mackenzie.
Yes. So on the topic of Ian Haney Lopez and his construction of racism, so people not viewing others as a certain race or ethnic background because they don't necessarily look that way. We have a coworker named Mackenzie. She is half Hispanic, but she doesn't necessarily claim herself to be Hispanic, and she doesn't tell people that she is because her dad is white, but her mom is Mexican. But it looks very white presenting, if you will. And she also doesn't speak any Spanish. Okay, so she doesn't speak much. She doesn't necessarily claim herself as Hispanic, and she has a bunch of other people never believing that she is Hispanic at first sight, which can also go back to, Drake not looking black, or no, his son not looking black, but he is black, right?
Both Drake and Adonis are black.
Both black.
Men,
Yes,
but
Mackenzie's Mexican.
So okay. You said that whole Mac part. Bringing into our coworker, Steven.
No!
Yes.
No, we're not talking about Steven again.
I would like to wrap this up by saying rest in peace, Pop Smoke.
Rest in peace, Pop Smoke. That's it for the episode. Maybe come back next episode.
What are we going to talk about next episode? Let's find out.
Yo, maybe we should talk about. We keep going for Kendrick and Drake. New
Yeah,
stuff's
that-
coming out. That'd be really good.
Yeah, because we only halfway through what?
Like-
You fucking Meet the Grams didn't come out.
Yeah, 616 wasn't out.
We had like what, 4 drops since then? 3?
Yeah,
we
we
need to-
only had
yeah.
3 songs to work with last time. We talked about J. Cole a bit.
We only talked about 1.
J. Cole doesn't even really matter.
We talked Push Up was
Scheme of
out.
things.
Push Up was out.
This is true. This is true.
So we
Yeah,
talk about
how are we
Push Up.
gonna
Push Up
push
was
a
out.
T?
Let me see you push him. T.
You'd be pushing
Oh.
me.
What is it? The braids? You
know what? Maybe next time we'll really get into the way that we hate the way that they talk.
Don't
the way
forget
that
to
they walk.
comment down.
Oh,
in
comment
the-
down below.
Tell us what you want to hear in
Yeah.
the next podcast, because we are listening. Like this whole podcast was dedicated to again Dr. Hussein.
Dr. Hussein, shout out, our fave, our big fan.
She has a
Yes.
screen name. Maybe
Anyways, I want to give a big shout out to one of our biggest supporters. You might know him, the Comic Syndicate. Woo! Thank you. And thank you to everyone else tuning in. Steven, I know you're listening. I'm so sorry for all the bad words being addressed towards
I know
you.
you're a Cherokee.
No.
If you are listening.
All right. Okay.
Secrets out.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You don't want to work with me anymore? Okay.
Rest in peace to Pop Smoke.
That was
Rest in
that was
peace,
a
Pop Smoke.
Kendrick bar. Anyways, thank you so much for joining. Love talking to you guys.
Pop Smoke.
Play some outro music.
Oh.
Peace, Pop Smoke.
Rest in peace,
Wait. What's the theme of this episode?
Kendrick.
No.
Ethnic studies.
Pop Smoke.
It is.
Born.
Oh no.
Specifically.
She's like, oh baby, I know ya. All right, thank you for tuning in. See you guys next week.
Foreigner.